Justin, you pushing rock, pal. You not be careful, we send rockets your way.
I will not be intimidated by your very small penis.
I'm not talking about sex act, you disgusting degenerate. Maybe you ray off human rights violations just a little bit so we get more maple syrup over here. What do you say about that, Justin?
I'm afraid I can't do that. An attack on someone who isn't white is an attack on all of us.
Oh
Made his
God,
voice
Castro
deeper.
would be so ashamed of you, Justin. You're such pussy.
Ew, vaginas are gross, and don't bring my father into this.
Wait, why do you keep changing the way you're dressed?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mr. Dress
Don't play
Up.
dumb with me, you fruity cuck.
Yeah.
Canada is a place of diversity.
Alright, that's it. I send CCP to kill whole family and then eat your dogs.
Pork-faced.
God damn it, Justin! I own your whole government! Give me big fat titty round-eye woman Mao!
Well, good day, brothers and sisters. And this is a comedy. And if you do not laugh at the life that it is around you, then you'll cry. And it doesn't get you anywhere. Okay, click all the subscribe buttons and like buttons because we're up for a treat today. We have a special guest, Melanie Renault.
Hello.
Hey, you want to say hello right away?
Sure. I'll say hello right away.
How was New Zealand?
It was great. I had a wonderful 3 months over there. Escaped winter.
What'd you do?
A lot of nothing. That was really nice. A real vacation. I hung out with some friends. I caught up with people I hadn't seen in 10 years. And just enjoyed myself.
What is New Zealand known for? Like, why do people want to go there as a tourist place?
I would say the landscape, the sheep. Lord of the Rings is on everybody's mind when they go to New Zealand. It is a beautiful country. Very nice, relaxed atmosphere too. And, it's just nature everywhere.
Big guy, when you were shooting a movie out there, what did you like about New Zealand?
The meat. Before that, I kid you not, I haven't ate meat for like regular anyway before that for a long time. And everybody's like, no, you're crazy. You got to eat it. It's grass-fed, no antibiotics, no GMO, none of that stuff. I was like, yeah. And I tried it, and it really is. You can taste the difference. And then after I came back to Canada, the meat tastes like cardboard. I kid you not. It is. In terms of like landscape, maybe nice. Yeah, I mean, it's comparable. Maybe people say like it reminds you of Scotland and Ireland a bit in some ways, but it also reminds you of the Rockies if you go to the South Island. What I found was disappointing about New Zealand. It's an island. It's subtropics. It's not tropics. What it is that I lived on the beach in Auckland, like literally walking distance from the beach. And, well, maybe not walking, but I mean, I lived on the water, but the beach was quite a ways, maybe 10 minutes by bike. I swam a handful of times because it's like you really have to practice Wim Hof method. If you guys don't know who Wim Hof is, look it up. It's summertime there is reverse, right? It's because it's a different hemisphere. If you're into globe Earth, if you're into flat Earth, it's something different. But the ocean is there freezing. Even in the summertime, sometimes they say you can get like an iceberg floating by, like by South Island as you're going swimming. And didn't swim at all, like maybe 10 times. The whole year I was there, maybe 10 times I went swimming because it's just freezing. So cold. So Melanie is actually going to record a Tartaria show, which we're going to release tomorrow. And you guys got to tune into that. It's Tartaria Montreal. We're going to focus on that. We're going to talk about a bit about New Zealand Tartaria structures. If you don't know what Tartaria is, you need to especially tune in to the show tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. And if you're lucky enough, maybe I'll even release it tonight. But I doubt it because, it's just too many shows in one day. You need to soak one at a time. Glenn, what's in the news for you today?
Oh, lots of stuff we're going to pick on tonight. Today, it's things are coming out left, right, and center. And like you said, it's comedy. So you have to find the fun in everything. And common news here in the Western culture, there's a lot of funny in that.
Well, I don't one thing I agree with you. You have to have fun with this, but it's at the same time it's disappointing because we try so hard here to raise people's discernment in understanding that what is happening is divide and conquer. And every time I tune in into the legacy media, there's more of the same. More versus black versus white, left versus right, women versus men, jabbed versus unjabbed, Russians versus the West, blah, whatever it is, Ukrainians versus Russians. There's always a women versus men, whichever one is the popular one too. Give me another one.
Straight versus non-straight, or even the non-straights versus the transgenders. It keeps going on. You see, divided we're weak. They're doing that to us. The matrix, government controlled through the media, is doing that purposely to keep the people weak, so they can keep taking more control, institute more ways that they can rob our wealth more efficiently, so-called send it around the world for good causes, so that it can come back being laundered on the other side of the world, come back and then they buy actual tangible assets before the Great Reset.
That's a good point. So what is the latest divide and conquer in the news, Glenn? Actually, I'll start us off. Did you listen to Biden's speech yesterday? He went to
I have to say, Mr. Biden, it's very difficult listening to his speech. Obviously, the man is quite a doughhead.
But he sounded the most comprehensive out of the latest, public interactions they had. He must have been on some really good drugs. But don't take my word for it. Let's listen to it for 1 second.
Always been a fairy tale for the best in us. To choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
He gets lots of applaud for that.
Brownie points.
So what do you think when they did define white supremacy? Are you white supremacist in his eyes?
Champ, I think he's just doing that to appease the Democratic vote, to try and get more of the black vote. And at the same time, this is being used to divide the people in America up more, almost like a type of civil war.
But he's racist himself in the first place, right? It is like you mentioned it last time. It's just a tool for the globalist to take their eyes off something else, whatever that something else is. Probably Great Reset into 15-minute cities where you just And I think the COVID thing was the first step towards it, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But don't forget, he's not. You're right. The agenda is being pushed throughout all the outlets and throughout all the medias. Why is Mayorkas talking about white supremacy, the great terrorism threat to U.S.? He's the Homeland Security, right?
Yeah, Homeland Security, and not only that, but he's in charge of a very porous border now with Mexico, and so many migrants are running across, and they've lost count of how many children. There's like 85,000 children in America that are unaccounted for from this porous border. So they're purposely doing a horrible job, and this guy wants to talk about anybody who stands against what he believes, they're probably labeled a white supremacist or something. No, we're all pro-humanists, okay? It's human beings first. But you have to do things through proper channels, and that is another form of discipline. You just can't run across a country and say, okay, I'm here. You have to follow the right channels to do that, to be to make a better future in North America.
Well, last time you mentioned that fentanyl kills a lot more people than whatever other causes are. And how does it get into the United States?
Yeah, fentanyl is, the building blocks of fentanyl, they all come from China. They make their way through Central America and Mexico, and through two large cartels in Mexico, it ends up making its way into North America. Fentanyl killed more people than the Vietnam War in 1 year. In every year, it kills more people than the Vietnam War, the Afghan War, and the Iraqi War together.
Glenn, you're a white supremacist because it's not a war. It's a conflict that's the liberation from the authoritarian governments in the region. You know, in Vietnam they were killing the communists. In Afghanistan they were killing the terrorists. In Iraq, I don't know who were they killing in Iraq. Long story short, let's listen to Mayorkas really quick. What does he has to say, that racist bastard?
Hate, anti-government sentiments, false narratives, personal grievances, and the like. And regrettably, we have seen a rise in white supremacy. And the principle underlying our work is that when one community is targeted, Jonathan, when one community is targeted, we as a country are targeted.
Oh, okay. So that's reach. So what happens when all those Chinese special operators come through the border? That's how they come through the border. How many thousands of them? Basically, by now, if they have, I don't know, since how many million people came in? Something like 3-4 million people came through the border since Biden administration.
That's probably a very low number from the truth, right? And this Mayorkas, he would fit under the dictionary version of a paid Muppet, okay? He's just paid to prostitute, not prostitute out BS, like there's no tomorrow.
What is white supremacy? How do they define? Because they throw that term loosely. Do you want to see what Wikipedia says about that? Is the belief that white people are superior to those of the races and thus should dominate them. The belief favors the maintenance and defense of any power and privilege held by white people. White supremacy has roots in the non-discredited doctrine of scientific racism and was a key justification for European colonialism. What is the difference? What is the non-scientific racism? Do you guys venture to guess?
I don't know, champ, but you know what? That sounds like a Nazi. It was the same thing. And there's this so-called conspiracy theory that after the war, a lot of the Nazis made their way into Central South America and now have permeated into North America to control the political system.
Maybe it's like, biological racism is white versus black, but the, what do they call it? Scientific racism is if I identify as a black woman, maybe I'm not a white supremacist, right? I don't know. That's maybe my definition of it.
Scientific
Scientific
racism, sometimes termed as biological racism. Actually, you are wrong. Is the pseudo-scientific belief that empirical evidence? By the way, I'm reading from Wikipedia, brothers and sisters. It's not the most trustworthy source, but this is how the legacy defines. That's why we're reading it for that purpose. Exists to support of justify racism, racial discrimination, racial inferiority, or racial superiority. Before the mid-20th century, scientific racism received credence throughout the scientific community, but it's no longer considered scientific. So science does change. They told us for the last few years, science changes.
Whenever they want it to change, when it's to their advantage, right?
To suit their narrative, exactly. Yes.
Okay, let's just move on. We can beat that story to death. But yeah, according to Mayorkas and Biden, we could be. By the way, there's so many videos of Biden being a racist himself. And I mean, maybe he's old and it's just, what do they call it? Alzheimer's. And let's just watch the Biden being all crazy racist.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You got the first sort of mainstream.
He's talking about Obama.
Who is articulate and bright and and clean and nice-looking guy.
Biden recalling his early Senate career, bringing up two segregationist senators, Herman Talmadge and James Eastland, who called African Americans an inferior race. I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland, Biden said. He never called me boy. He always called me son. At least there was some civility. We got things done.
The senators that he is speaking of with such adoration are individuals who made and built their reputation on segregation.
Why does she always sound like she's drunk?
Celebrated the election of one of them.
Using the word boy in the way he did can cause hurt and pain, and we need a presidential nominee and the leader of our party to be sensitive to that.
That's a black man
Democratic
talking.
colleagues don't like me saying this. I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the Negro, good for the black. Other than the fact that they still call me boy, I think they've changed their mind a little bit.
As also noted, Robert C. Byrd was a parliamentary library, a keeper of the institution of the Senate.
Robert Byrd is a
The
KKK leader.
institution itself, for a lot of us, he was a friend. He was a mentor and he was a guide.
1987, he bragged about getting an award from George Wallace.
Biden bragged about an award from the notorious segregationist Governor George Wallace and told the Philadelphia Inquirer, I think the Democratic Party could stand a liberal George Wallace, someone who's not afraid to stand up and offend people.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
I'm done with that. Where's the politically correct people when you need them? By the way, that's not the only crazy video we have of him. This one's a shorter one. Let's watch this.
Smell of hair.
Look
at that.
Sniffy Joe Biden. Oh, he kissed her. Oh my God, look at it.
So creepy.
Look at her. This is oh my God. This is on. For you guys, if you're listening, not watching, this is Joe Biden molesting children in public on camera.
No shame.
No shame. Yeah, this is it. I don't know. I actually just played this video with the song. I don't know if this will be.
Champ, it's amazing how much politicians can get away with in this modern society. It's like, what is it? The average person is just so distracted with nothingness that they can't see things like that and raise red flags. I said, hey, there's something wrong here. I mean, he looks like he's coming out with these children. And, it gets questioned a little bit, and then everybody forgets, like the memory goes the way of the dodo bird. Yes.
Then Britney Spears is
back. That's the whole thing, I think, about being compartmentalized. So on to the next thing. Like, I think that the reason why all those TikTok videos and Instagram things exist. So on to the next and forget what happened 5 minutes ago. Let's become fish. Glenn, that's your favorite story. Let's cover this. I'll let you run with that.
Trans women can be moms too. Really? Look at that. That's like putting lipstick on a pig, okay? I don't care how much lipstick and earrings you wear. You're still a pig, okay? The sad truth is today that so many people are in La La Land, and this is being promoted as though anybody who stands up against this has mental issues or we're problems for society. I would say the exact opposite. Anybody who looks like this, who believes things like that, they have the mental issues. And everybody trying to push that from being acceptable to being embraced is another bunch of group of people who have severe issues. They need help. So obviously, this is almost like a paid provocateur. When the pendulum starts coming the other way, we have to watch. We have to, our brothers and sisters, because these people could become targets. And that's just as wrong also. People would be venting on them and maybe get aggressive with them. Listen, these people, they have mental issues, Would you go and feel proud by beating up a person, a mentally retarded person? Of course not.
No, you wouldn't.
But just me saying that, there's people going to come out, oh, you're this and you're that, and you don't want to accept me the way I am, and you're going to hurt my feelings. I don't care about your feelings, okay? The truth hurts. Suck it up, buttercup. because you're going to have big problems coming our way very shortly.
You're right. And if the transgender thing will be the last thing on people's mind when nuclear bombs exploding, which I don't believe will happen. And there's another theory that nukes actually don't exist. That's your field, isn't it? No, I put you on the spot. No, but isn't it one of the conspiracy talking points that nukes actually don't exist? And that's one of the things that they scare us with, and like all those explosions that also like animation / just large TNT kind of bombs versus actual nuke bombs, which I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I never been.
It's possible.
There's this video of the girl complaining about being okay. Maybe we can listen to this really quick.
Only, ladies and gentlemen, it is and shall always be. I am an 18-year-old high school student and wanted to take this time to bring to your attention the current issue with biological men claiming they are women and in turn truly believing that they are entitled to use women's spaces. There was an incident within our district that occurred recently regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to this is the fact that this man is and has been using the women's restroom and locker room. Firstly, the question we must address is why are we affirming the mental confusion of this boy and putting the safety of women in jeopardy by allowing mentally confused men to use the women's space?
Glenn, that's what you just said.
Male who claims he is a woman.
She said it very well, too.
Women. What about the true girls like myself who are female down to our DNA? Why don't we ever get a say in whether or not we are comfortable with this? The truth is we aren't. The majority of us aren't, and yet nothing has been done to protect the safety of these women. I will conclude with this. It all
Silent
starts
majority.
With you. You are in charge of the safety of us women and the parent and the kids of our parents. So please do something about it. Thank you.
Yeah, she's on point. And she obviously got a lot of support. You can hear the applause. Melanie, New Zealand, I was there before you.
Yep.
You were there after the COVID thing. Well, and by the way, you know what in New Zealand happens? Glenn, I told you that about it. They have a term called whawhawhine. Melanie, you know what that means?
Whawhawhine. No.
I think that means a woman, actually, in like one of the dialects there, like the Maori dialects or whatever, but not just a woman. It's actually a cultural transgender thing. So they have a belief, and again, I'm not 100% certain on definition, but if you are born, like say in the family, because Islanders had a lot of children, and there's maybe 10 boys that are born, so they make one of the boys into a transgender girl. And you see a lot of those Islanders in there. It's a cultural thing. You haven't seen those?
I've seen a few, yes, definitely. And it makes me think also of like the two-spirit from the native community here in North America. I don't know the history behind it, but I did see for sure a few transgender in New Zealand. There was an event that happened not long after I left, where this woman was coming to do a speech in Auckland to talk about women's rights and how women were women and men were not women. And she got booted out the park. Like there was a big crowd that really kicked her out violently also. So that was pretty intense. There's a lot of really good brainwashing going on in New Zealand. COVID was a good example.
Well, you
too.
just said, I just mentally scratched that off my honey to-do list. I'm not going over there.
There's still a lot of really awakened people, also. You've got
That's true.
You've got both, I met with both of the sides, and there's a very powerful movement going on over there, a freedom movement, to rewrite a bit history of the new earth.
Yeah, there is definitely a resistance. There's another piece of the news, Glenn, right there. And that's part of the resistance movement. Trans disc golfer booted from the women's tournament amid lawsuit. And it's actually this whole thing, divide and conquer. Let's introduce this transgender element to our society, not to better it, but to make it worse, to show that, like diversity, let's show how we're all the same. No, diversity shows how we're all different, and let's focus on differences. And here we consider them mental issues. But remember how March 8th, International Women's Day, they gave awards to transgender women, which is men. They couldn't find an actual woman to give an award on the International Women's Day. That undermines the whole point of the movement in sports and some jurisdictions throughout the world. They start to ban this thing because it is abusive to women. It is. It's unfair.
Also, when you had that transgender guy, there's no such thing as transgender, okay? The nutcase Mulvaney pushing Nike women's sport bras and
I got
shorts.
I got a video for you.
Yeah, that's just, it's so stupid. And you know something? When I talk to people at the gym, a lot of girls are saying that's ridiculous. That's like a slap in the face to women.
And look at that. Look at this.
Hey there. Oh, you ready for me? Great. I'm Dylan Mulvaney. My pronouns are she, they.
Wow.
No patience.
That's what I was saying. When people have had enough, we got to stop. Like, we don't want the extreme to happen too, okay? These are still our brothers and sisters, but they have mental issues. You don't start venting on them because, let's say, your way of life is being challenged.
I don't think this guy was venting on, and we're not, by the way, we're not here promoting violence towards any of our brothers and sisters. All are brothers and sisters. Everyone, no matter how crazy. I'm crazy too. Look at me. I look in the mirror every morning and I do affirmations. You're not crazy. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's a negative affirmation. When you say you're not crazy, you definitely are crazy. You got
to be careful with the words.
You got to be careful with the words.
This is coming so-called from the leaders today, the modern day leaders. Just to give you, I was reading something the other day here locally in Montreal, just to give the audience something to think about, that the top-down control the leaders. There are a couple of dog parks in Montreal where you bring your dogs to run around and play with the other dogs, And now they have signs on the dog park, no barking, up to $2,000 fine. What? Yeah, serious. Up to a $2,000 fine. In a barking in a dog park.
How do you control your dog from not barking?
I don't know. Now you got to change train your dog to meow to get past the $2,000 fine. It's so stupid, the stuff that's going on. And these are the people in the positions that make the rulings. So when you see something so stupid like that, then you can understand, like taking Mulvaney, that the guy who thinks he's a girl. No, you're a man, but a screwed up man, pushing a Bud Light commercial. Like, anybody would know that now Bud Light sales, you just ruined the whole corporation. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Intentionally. That's my point of view. Let's get to, in everything goes broke, right? Netflix is no stranger to that phenomenon. They've done this before, and now they shot themselves in the foot. Seems like with another docudrama, Queen Cleopatra, launched 2 weeks ago, and now looks like to have earned the unenviable plaudit of drawing the worst audience score in TV history. Apparently, it was promoting the whole strong woman thing through Queen Cleopatra, right? I mean, I don't actually know. By the way, and we'll talk about this in Tartaria thing. People don't know what happened 20 years ago. Example, Building 7, right? How do we know what happened in Egypt millennia ago? Well, what was the Queen Cleopatra? When did she live?
That I am not sure. I don't remember my history.
Melanie, come on, that's your thing, isn't it?
Partially.
That's okay.
I don't know when clean.
But long ago,
during the Roman Empire.
Doesn't matter. The point is, we don't remember things that happened 20 years ago. How do we remember things that happened thousands of years ago?
Yeah, but she was dating Julius Caesar, so
she was progressive because Julius Caesar was a bi. I don't know. I just spreading misinformation.
How do you know Queen Cleopatra was a woman?
Maybe she was transgender. Is that what the point is?
Who knows?
Maybe she was if she was at all.
She did have a big nose, though, right?
If she was at all. Well, it wasn't Adam's apple, is it? Vice Media. Remember we covered it a few weeks ago, Glenn? Vice Media?
Yeah, it's going to be happening with a lot of media platforms. The ones that were protective of the truth getting out there, they're the ones losing all the membership and the viewership. So their revenues from commercial sales have diminished exponentially. So now there's going to be a new rise, especially with people like Tucker Carlson joining on Twitter. Twitter is going to be something really, really big, and it's going to be a place for people, the right to free speech. And then it'll leave it up to the people to discern what they want to believe is true or not.
Well, that's a good point. Then Vice is going to file for Chapter 11, just like the BuzzFeed did, and more of the same to come. What else can we see in the news? Let's get going. This is nothing that we can not predict, right?
While you're looking for that, I just want to talk about something about Melanie here. She noticed it on some of my notes about self-checkout counters. Like they're what they're doing is minimizing the salary expenses on a corporation, right? So salaries is the biggest expense in a corporation, so you need less and less employees. So therefore, let's say you go shopping at Shoppers Drug Mart or Walmart, something like that. They want you to check out in other words, you're going to work for them. Okay, so all that savings, because they don't have to hire people, you're actually doing the work for them. You're going there spending money, you're doing the work for them. They're not going to pass that savings on to you. That's just going to increase the margins of the companies. That's all. And one problem is, let's say you're thinking about something as you're checking out stuff, and you forget to check out something, or you just, slide it through, and then you can be charged for shoplifting.
Or you don't forget, and then the shoplifting increases, especially in modern day economy.
Yeah. Oh, they call that spillage. It's just a write-off, you see.
But then, they have the self-checkout, but then they still need the employees to make sure to help the humans use the self-checkout machine, So it's like, why can't I just go to your cash and deal with you instead of having this machine that if I'm at the grocery store, if I want to buy a wine, I need the human to confirm that I'm more than 18. So it's like, what's the point? Why can't we just have the cash register, Like, it's not really saving any salary. Also, maybe you have less people working, but you still have humans needing to help other humans.
It looks like the underground agenda is to get rid of cash. In other words, if you have cash, you can go and somebody will check out the items for you, a regular cash register. But if you're using cards, it's supposed to be a simplistic, hey, you can go over there and do it yourself. You don't have to wait in line. It's going to be much faster. So it seems to be another eradication of using cash. And cash is also another of one of the last bastions of freedom.
Totally.
Okay? Because through the cards, they know wherever your money is being spent. But cash, that's a bit of a block. And governments not only do they want to tax you more and make more money from you, but they want to control you more by knowing what you're spending on, where, and so to establish a profile on you.
Yeah, so they continue the proper advertisement after that through the other companies that are linked to your expenses as well. But it makes me think, when I was in New Zealand, I went to a music festival, and they were selling alcohol, obviously, and there was all those lines, and you could only pay by card, but there was one line for water and paying by cash. So it was just such a weird thing. So I was like, oh, because I'm paying cash, I'm actually not going to wait as long as all you fools waiting to pay with your card, But I am pro cash, 100%.
I'm pro gold. All right, we got to move on because we have another show to record. You guys been amazing here today. But let's talk about global tourism. That's your thing, Melanie. It's coming back after COVID because we talk about 15-minute cities, and they don't want us to travel intentionally. Before, they used scare tactics like, Cold War and don't go to Russia, it's terrible, and don't go what they do in North Korea now. Like a lot of North Koreans don't know what the world outside is. They just rely on the government to tell them. And so they doing the same factors, they incorporating like this whole divide and conquer thing with a passport, nationality, and get visas and all this other stuff is designed for us not to actually intermingle with our brothers and sisters and to see that we're all the same. People in North Korea don't want you dead. People in North Korea don't even know you exist. People in North Korea don't know who you are. And I'll bring this example, like watching Hollywood movies in Soviet Union or like right post-Soviet Union in the early 90s, all those pirated VHS copies. I was always surprised they had all those Schwarzenegger movies, Red Dawn, and I don't know, there's tons of them where you watch Russians or Soviets being Rambos, and it seems like the Cold War stuff, anti-Soviet Union and Russian propaganda. Russians are bad, Russians are stupid, all women are dumb and hairy, whatever. I don't know what else was the stereotypes there, but really diminishing and bringing down the Russian culture in general and the Russian people. And obviously it was done for a reason, but what was the reason? And I think with COVID is the same thing. The idea is to scare people off to travel, either make them uncomfortable to travel with things like a wax pass or with a mask on for 12 hours to fly to New Zealand, etc. But the idea behind it was to divide us even more, keep us farther away. It wasn't necessarily not necessarily, we know for a fact it wasn't for any other health reasons now as we know it, because, and playing gimmick is over officially. And I'm not even sure if we can still talk about it because, we've been in a jail and, with YouTube. And it's weird because somebody definitely snitched on us, brothers and sisters, whoever it was, because there's so many other shows that we said things way far off the scale. And we still, that show wasn't removed. And the show that we just discussed, somebody else's video was removed. So somebody's snitching. Now, that's your tourist thing, Melanie. How do you think, like in your experience, are people back on track in terms of moving around the world?
Oh, yes, definitely. There's been a lot of increase in tourism. I was speaking with some friends that are still in the travel industry. I used to be a travel agent for about 8 years. And I see it now also as a tour guide. Definitely people are back on traveling from all over the place, from their vacation that was canceled 2 years ago, last year, whatever, for different reasons, for COVID, for all of that. So they're finally traveling again. And I think everybody's really enjoying traveling. So they're traveling, they're going to travel more and more and more. And I do think, yes, the whole COVID and everything. And for example, if I think of the curfew that we had here in Quebec was to keep us separated so that we wouldn't mingle, that we wouldn't talk about how crazy things were and how like, hey, hold on, does it really make sense? Like they didn't want us to have conversations. And on a global aspect, if you think, when you see the news only from your own country and you hear about what's going on in the other countries, but that's not the whole truth. So they don't want you to travel too much to talk to the others and find out what's the truth in your country, what's going on, and realize that the same patterns are being used all over the world, and that there's something fishy going on, So, but I think more and more people are awakening in different spheres of the reality. And traveling definitely is something that's good for the soul. I hadn't traveled in ages and spent 3 months in New Zealand, came back for 3 weeks, and then went 3 weeks to Mexico. And it was just the best thing to travel, to change your environment, to lose your reference points, and live something else and reconnect with your own self instead of all the crap that's going on around you.
Well, I'd like to weigh in. I don't mean to, rain on people's parade, but the reality is a lot of this vacationing that's going on is being put on credit card. People are going into debt for a vacation, and if they don't pay off this debt, they're using their credit, so if they don't pay off the debt, then they're going to have to pay interest on a vacation. I mean, so that's one caveat. I understand that people now that all of a sudden they were being crushed down, and now it's like a spring, so you pop back up. But you also have to be aware about your finances because, like we always say on the show, things could get or will get, I can guarantee, a little bit more difficult economically and financially for everybody.
I forgot, guys. I had this video to play on the previous subject. Do you guys remember Transformers? You ever watch Transformers, Melanie?
I did a while back, yes.
Do you know what kids it's still on and kids watch it?
I didn't know that.
for brothers and sisters, if you have kids, you need to know this. I'll play this really quick. This is just re-education.
They, them.
Thanks. I'm Sam. I'm
Hey there. Oh, you ready for me?
Oops.
Great.
My pronouns are they, them.
Nutty and nuttier.
Thanks. I'm Sam. I'm she, they, but you already know that.
Glenn, what's your pronouns again?
Champion and winner.
The amazing city he was referring to is Philadelphia. Which part of that was amazing? West Philadelphia, born and raised. Cops Creek.
It's hard to know who's dangerous or not.
North Philly, West Philly.
That's true, though disappointing.
Hey, it's okay. I know I'm safe when I'm with my friends or other non-binary people.
Non-binary?
Even the robots are transgender in this modern society of nutcases.
I'm sorry, I
Well, how can robot be transgender?
I knew my pronouns felt right, but what a wonderful word for a wonderful experience.
All right.
Yeah.
It's difficult watching that, champ. Oh, it's difficult.
But this is the reality. Like, our reality is being shaped in front of us, and this is, our children are being shaped into this reality.
This is being showed to children.
And it's been showed to children. And the thing is, like, my friend asked me a question, like, should I continue to send my daughter to the private school? I pay $30,000 a year. I was like, for $30,000 a year, I mean, it's a very expensive babysitting. It's super expensive babysitting.
Big guy, for $30,000 a year, you're getting an education. You're not getting an indoctrination. Okay?
Yeah.
The public school systems are indoctrination systems. And I've talked to many people who work as teachers, and they've had enough. They want out because of the curriculum that they're forced to put up with and to teach the children. And also, I was talking to a girl, a sweet lady. She's a teacher in a school, and she says she has one of those they thems in her class, and she's forced, okay, to address this to help the psychopath stuff that's going on. Let's face it, overwhelmingly, the majority of the people do this for the sole purpose of getting more attention.
Exactly.
Okay, so obviously it stems from being a narcissist. Now, if this is not corrected, then the narcissism will lead into psychopaths and sociopaths.
For $30,000 a year, you can hire a private governor, like a tutor, like to come to your house for 3-4 hours a day.
Or what about if, let's say, 5 parents get together?
They do that co-ops.
Yeah, co-ops, and everybody pays a little bit of the salary for the teacher, and then you have less kids in a class, and they'll get more education, more teaching going on.
And they'll teach them what you want them to teach.
Yeah,
you carefully select the teacher. You'll interview them and all that.
Yeah, and instead of having maybe 1 hour a week for gym class, they should have 1 hour a day for gym class. And that would alleviate a lot of stress and anxiety the young people are having. And
not enough. I'll say twice. First thing in the morning before school starts, something really gentle, get the blood flowing, get the juices in your body, get your adrenaline pumping, etc., whatever.
Don't tell me yoga, big guy, please.
Well, you can do like Tai Chi. And then, sometime in the afternoon, like you said, in the mid-break, take them out to the gym, or whatever it is. It could be sport. It could be resisted training. It could be any kind of physical activity. Introduce them to a variety of things, develop their brains. I think I just read a statistic that people that play tennis, that exercise like extreme dexterity, they have less chances or like almost zero chances of getting Alzheimer's in old age. And Alzheimer's is a brain disease, right? Dysfunctional disease. So there's something about that. And the more you learn the more you teach your body in the younger age, greater your life will be at the older age. There's a lot more stories to cover, Glenn. I think we just run really quick through them. And the Russia-China Bus Road-based freight traffic more of the same. Russian is being pushed away from dealing, from commercing with the West, and now pointing its economy towards the East. So it does not benefit anybody else in the West specifically, right? So it also protects Chinese interests, because China has all those factories and they need to sell their stuff somewhere. And Russia is a big economy still, so they, and they're growing despite all the sanctions.
And in North America, freight traffic, by the way, has dropped off a cliff. So the people in the freight transporting industry, they're telling me that they're in a severe recession already. So that's a telltale of what is coming. That's also your preliminary of what is coming down the pipeline when it comes to the economy. So in other words, people are not consuming as much, probably because they can't. They don't have the money like they used to. And inflation is eating away at their after-tax dollars. And so this is the beginning of what we talk about all the time.
Another piece of news is a legal fund for U.S. subway vigilante raises $1.8 million. That's the guy who stopped this homeless troublemaker, right? How many times he was arrested before he finally was stopped?
He was arrested 42 times in 8 years. Okay, the lad was 30 years old. Obviously, he has drug problems. He's just not getting along in society too well. And people had to put up with this. They were in fear, danger. And this guy would do something bad in the subway system and get away with it because nobody wanted to do anything or too afraid to do anything. But I always say, the bullies, at one time, they get bullied. Now, it was a 24-year-old guy. It was a Marine. They call him a veteran. I don't know, when did he start? At 12 years old? But the veteran got involved and choked him out. Now, I'm sure the veteran didn't want to kill him, the Marine fellow, but that's what happened. Maybe they say it was the choke. Maybe it was the drugs. Maybe it was the adrenaline. We don't know. But, and then in New York, they try and make a problem as though that's a black and white thing. No, that's just one of our brothers, a spiritual being having a human experience, and his experience is like a hell on earth, and it's causing problems for everybody else. So this has to be fixed somehow. It's not like he deserves to be in the ground, but sometimes, you play with fire, you're going to get burnt and pretty bad.
Well, it can be fixed if we continue to gaslight people with divide and conquer stuff. It's like, yes, you're an inferior person because you're black. It's the white supremacy. They caused all this. You got to hate all the white people. And you hear it on TV all the time. White people apologizing to. How's the little girl that was born into this white or black? She has anything to do for the sins of their fathers that passed a long time ago. What about the sins of the military industrial complex and the bankers alike? When do they going to apologize? I never heard apology from Pentagon saying, oh, yeah, we went into Iraq to look for some invisible chemical or otherwise weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, sorry, we killed a few million people and pillaged and robbed and destroyed a lot of things, including people's lives. Zelensky hints at postponing election. I mean, he has a point, right? He has a war, but is it part of the Western democracy? Right, like that's not the first thing. He banned all the opposition parties. He banned all the opposition media. Not just banned, he jailed them. Right, and now he's stopping the upcoming vote. And you would say, yeah, it's the country's under the martial law, and this probably is a good idea. Didn't they do the same thing with FDR during World War II?
Yeah,
again, another term.
Obviously, this guy in his divide and conquer, and he's a dictator. And he's telling the country what he wants, and you have to listen or else we're going to jail you, and you can't build up an opposition to me. We're going to jail them. So
like they, them, or just them?
All of them. And right now I wonder if they really had a fair election in Ukraine. I wonder if the Ukrainians would still vote for this guy. Maybe they would vote for a party that would promote peace. Let's sit down to the table. Let's stop dying. Let's hammer this out for a better tomorrow.
I would question every election everywhere it goes. I don't think there's no such thing. Turkish opposition claims, speaking of elections and election fraud claims, Turkish opposition claims vote count manipulations.
Yeah, it seems like Erdogan is going to win. He won the first round in the voting, and it looks like he's going to win again. But of course, it seems to be what's going on after Trump did it in all other countries where democracy is, let's just say it's a word that's overused and underapplied. And, you know, that all the other leaders who lose, they're saying, oh, it was a problem with the voting and this, that. You know what? It could be. That's the thing. It could be. If you've been in power for years, that derives cronyism. So you have more influence on a greater group of people who are able to control everything in the so-called democratic electoral process.
Well, power wants to hold on to power, right? How's power going to step down?
Absolutely, Big Guy.
Okay, let's just cover the last piece before we go. Japan. Even Japan had enough of U.S.
Japan, a vassal state of America after the Second World War, when they signed all the papers, the documents on the big ship. I think it was a destroyer or
demilitarization, right? They couldn't have any army. They couldn't build any army up or anything like this.
But now the Japanese people have had enough of the American military bases on the island of Okinawa. That's like on the island of Okinawa, it makes like 2 or 3% of all the Japanese population, but they have 70% of the American military bases of Japan on that island of Okinawa.
It's a nice island, you know.
Yeah, but it's also that's a what would you call it? Like a military
strategic point,
place, and a lot of the people on that island are complaining about the noise, the pollution from these military bases. Some of the soldiers, you know, they're out drinking, and then they get a little, they get a little mean with the girls, the women. And so I think the people have had enough. They want that. And also, they know that they'll be thrusted into the war with China. And so it'll be fought over there. It won't be fought in North America here, right? So obviously, if I was over there too, I would be protesting and trying to get all my brothers and sisters to say, okay, we want to live peacefully. We don't want bombs dropping down on our heads.
Good way to finish the show, brothers and sisters. Melanie, thank you so much for coming to our roundtable with Glenn and Alex, and hopefully you are not going to become a white supremacist racist after a show like this. All jokes aside, brothers and sisters, we're not here to divide you. We're here to have fun, to teach you to have fun with your discernment. And this is the thing. Lighten up. Serve somebody. After watching the show, call somebody, say something nice. It's all it is. You see how they're doing. Ask them about the day, and that's my 2 cents for the day. We'll see you in the next one, brothers and sisters.